Hello, everyone. Today, I would like to share with you a short story titled My Father, a profoundly moving story that portrays the life of a man who endured hardship throughout his entire life. Life is ultimately fleeting. Whether you are rich or poor, when you leave this world, everything turns to dust. This short story was honored as the best short story by a renowned magazine in Vietnam. Now, let's step into the story together. My father. My father is 72 years old. His weak, shallow breaths, I don't know how much longer they will last. Every time I return to visit my hometown, seeing the worn-out mat he lies on, his curled-up limbs alone in the annex, my heart tightens with sorrow. I can't stay calm when I see a dozen ants gnawing at his hands and feet. I suddenly realize that even if he feels discomfort, he can't scratch himself. Gently lifting him up, I bathe and shave him. When he was still strong, he always liked to keep his hair neat and clean. Sitting beside him, I carefully trim his long nails. My tears fall, wetting his hand. I quickly wipe them away, afraid he might sense my sadness and feel uneasy. I know that, all these years, he has never truly been at peace about me, because my own life and happiness have yet to settle. In the past, when he could still speak, every time I visited, he would reach out to touch my shoulders and back, checking to see how much I had grown. In the quiet moments sitting beside him now, I understand. He wasn't just measuring my size, he was feeling whether the burdens I carried had become any lighter. Now, my father's hands are dry and trembling, able only to cling weakly to mine by reflex. I hold his hand back, squeezing gently, trying to pass him a little warmth. Outside, the afternoon sun is slanting low, beams of light slipping through the roof, casting a soft yellow hue into the annex. Somewhere, sparrows chirp faintly, their calls tinged with sadness. I sit quietly by my father's side, wanting to hold on to every precious second we still have. In the past, my father wasn't someone who spoke much of love. His love for his children was silent and enduring, like an underground stream, seeping deep into the earth, quietly nourishing life. Throughout the long, hard years raising me, he never once complained. Now, as he lies there, frail and small like an aged child, I finally grasp the depth of what he gave me over his lifetime. I can only wish time would slow down so I can stay by his side longer to make up for all the days I passed by too thoughtlessly. In the stillness of the small house, I whisper, "Dad, please don't worry about me anymore. I've grown up. I'll live well, I promise you." His dry, fragile hand trembles ever so slightly. I know. He heard me. He asked me many things. I wanted to make him happy, so I often shared my thoughts with him. "Dad, my life is no longer as hard as it used to be. I have a stable job now. As for love, you don't need to worry. It will come when the time is right." When I was 14, I had a secret crush on a boy from the same neighborhood. I was completely infatuated, feeling lost and restless if I didn't see him each day. Because I was still too young, Dad forbade me from meeting him. Every evening when I went out, Dad would stay up, waiting for me to come home. Knowing that he couldn't see me and could only hear the sound of my flip-flops clapping against the ground, I used to carry my sandals in my hands as I entered the gate. But once I stepped into the house, there was no way to hide. The creaking of the door gave me away. Dad had forbidden me many times, but I didn't listen. One evening, when I returned home, Dad was already waiting with a big stick in hand. The moment I stepped inside, he beat me. He scolded me harshly. "As a girl, you must protect your dignity. If anything happens, it will bring shame upon the whole family." Dad worried because I was still too young. At night, even while sleeping, I would sometimes laugh and talk in my dreams. I was still in the age of innocence and careless joy. Every morning, either Dad or Mom would have to wake me up. Mom would only call a few times before heading off to work. Dad would chase me from one bed to another, trying to get me out of bed. There was even a time when I was beaten for waking up too late. During meals, Mom would scold me. "You're grown up now. Sleeping in so late is disgraceful." Everyone laugh. I'm learning from Nai. She's already cut half an acre of rice since this morning. My father and mother were workers in a mountain forestry station. In 1987, they moved back to our hometown in Bukgyang to live. There, I suddenly discovered that I had many older siblings. Some were already married. My eldest sister was only a few years younger than my mother. These were the children from my father's previous marriages. Every day, the whole family went to work. My younger brother and I often went to our older brother's house to play, but I was often chased away and beaten by a woman in her 50s with a stick. Later, I learned that this was our stepmother. My mother told me that all my siblings had enough to eat and wear, with rice and grains stored in their houses. Yet, when my father fell ill, none of my siblings paid attention to him. When my parents returned to Bukgyang, they had nothing left. All the belongings in the house were sold because of my father's severe illness. The whole family relied on my mother, who worked hard doing odd jobs. Sometimes, our family had to go without food for days. I came to understand that my stepmother and the older siblings often treated us as though we didn't exist. Every morning, my mother left for work very early. She worked from dawn till noon, exchanging labor for a handful of rice to feed the family. But there were many afternoons when she returned empty-handed. The spring rain was so persistent. Those long spring rains slowly caused the thatched roof of our house to decay. Here is the English translation of your passage. At noon, every house had a fire going, except for ours, which was cold and empty. Oh, how fragrant and warm the smoke from the neighbor's kitchen smelled. As everyone was preparing to eat, I felt hungrier. I often took my younger brother to our elder sister's house to watch them eat. We would stand there for a long time until she chased us away. Then I would take my brother outside the gate, standing there, looking in. On the day my youngest brother got married to the daughter of our stepmother, my sister and I stood by the house, gazing in. I knew that if we went inside, they would just chase us away. But there, a few of the neighbors' children were allowed to enter and eat at the wedding feast. I took a risk and brought my brother over. The moment we stepped into the yard, my sister grabbed a stick and chased us away. I received a painful beating, terrified. That year, the hunger stretched on endlessly, leaving our family weak and fragile. My parents were forced to consider the last resort, asking for help. That was the year I was old enough to start first grade. My father grew old and rapidly became very thin. A few months later, my mother decided that my father and I would no longer go begging. She said, "At home, even if we're hungry, at least we're together." At home, my father didn't have to face the sun and rain, but the poverty and hunger still lingered, weighing heavily. The financial struggle remained the deep chasm that my family had to climb. This time, my mother decided I should work for wages. She told me, "You go work for a few months." I was relieved and accepted. Just a few months to ease the family's suffering. A month passed, then 2, and then a year. I came home and asked my mother, "Can I stay at home, please?" She replied with the same words, "Just a few more months, my child." I cried. I can't bear it anymore. This passage emphasizes the struggle and emotional toll of poverty, along with the sacrifices the family makes in the face of hunger and hardship. "I want to stay home. I miss home so much, Mom." After staying at home for a few days, the hunger and poverty still pushed me to work away from home again. 1 year, 2 years, then 3 years. Many things happened while I was away. My sister was 16 now. My younger brother had grown up. Our family had survived the hunger. The family's finances slowly improved. My parents planned to build a brick house to replace the thatched roof that had caused me so much fear during the storms. The poverty, the disdainful eyes of the villagers who looked down on us, sparked a sense of determination within me. I told myself that I had to work hard to earn money, to lift my head up against those mocking words. I dreamed of the day my family would have a new house. When that day came, my friends would no longer look down on me. I anxiously waited for the day the house would be finished. I eagerly admired each brick laid as the foundation of the house was built. When the roof tiles were placed on, my sister and I happily carried a bamboo bed upstairs to lie on, even though the floor wasn't even yet, and the strong smell of lime and mortar filled the air. When the house was finished, my parents breathed a sigh of relief. I felt an indescribable joy. My father said, "From now on, the rain and sun will no longer bully our house." The cost of building the house exceeded the estimate by 6 million dong. The amount was far too much for our family. With no money left to cover the costs, we had no choice but to borrow at high interest. Then the interest piled up, and my parents worked tirelessly to pay off the debt. This part of the story highlights both the joy and struggles that came with improving their living conditions, the burden of debt, and the determination to rise above poverty. My dream and joy of the new house faded away in less than a month. Every day, I heard the shouts of the debt collectors. Every night, I heard my parents' reproaches. I felt like I had to leave home again, working away from home to help my parents. My life felt like a boat that drifted endlessly, never stopping, never reaching a shore. The meals were filled with tears. I longed for the laughter of my close friends. I missed my mother's tender words. I missed the morning calls from my father when I woke up late. The peacefulness of the house and the little alley with its bamboo grove would forever be my deep longing. After many years of struggling to make a living in a strange land, I felt that I had become stronger, more resilient. Every morning, I rode my bike to work. At night, I lay alone in the cold, damp walls. Many times, I wanted to turn my life upside down. I was sad and missed home. But until payday came, I couldn't go back to visit. I had learned a trade and worked many jobs, but the work was still unstable and going nowhere. Sometimes, I had to stay home for a week or even half a month because I couldn't find a job. When I was 20 years old, I applied for a job at a cosmetics company. I was just starting out. This passage highlights the characters' enduring struggles, their longing for home, and the difficult pursuit of stability in life. It shows how deeply their past influences their present and the challenges they continue to face. When I started the job, unfamiliar with the work, I had to sweep the floor, clean up spills, and scrub the bathroom like a janitor. One morning, just as I arrived at work, I received a phone call to come home immediately. My father was in critical condition and had been taken to the hospital. I asked my employer for permission to leave, but she remained calm, her plump figure unbothered, not showing any concern for my situation. But I had to hold back my emotions, continue working, and wait until evening to get my paycheck. With my wages in hand, I rode my bike as fast as I could to visit my father. When I arrived at the hospital, I was stunned to see my father unconscious. I held him, crying uncontrollably. I could almost feel my father's warm hands gently patting my shoulder. But that was just how I felt. My father was unconscious and unaware. 3 days had passed, and he still hadn't regained consciousness. I didn't leave his side for a moment. Neighbors came to visit, but none of my older siblings from my stepmother's side came to see him. I was deeply upset. On the 4th day, my father suddenly woke up. That was when I saw my older siblings strolling into the hospital. Seeing their demeanor, I almost lost my mind. I slammed the hospital door shut, ran to my father, and cried silently in his embrace. My siblings exchanged glances, sighing at my silent sobs. Since moving back to live with my siblings, this was the first time I saw any of them show concern for our father. The following week, my father was healthy enough to be discharged from the hospital. My eldest sister brought a laying hen over for my mother to raise so that we could have eggs. This passage continues to reflect the deep emotional struggles of the protagonist, highlighting the neglect from the family and the contrast in their behavior when the father falls ill. Gradually, they stopped eating. My third sister, who lived far away, would buy my father some cakes every time she came back from her trips. My older brother, who lived nearby, brought porridge and noodles to take care of our father. Seeing this, I felt a deep sense of emotion and moved. I remembered my mother's words: "We siblings should never leave each other." But I still felt that my older siblings only showed their faces, not their hearts, towards us. However, I saw that my father seemed happier. I joked with my parents, "Well, it looks like the movie has a happy ending." 2 years later, disaster struck our family again. My father suffered a stroke. A blood vessel in his brain had ruptured. For 10 days, he lay unconscious. His breathing was very weak. Every night, I woke up several times to feed him. A few spoonfuls of porridge, though exhausting, were filled with hope. My sister said we should stay calm and prepare ourselves in case Dad doesn't make it. Hearing her, I felt like crying, but I didn't dare cry out loud, afraid that my father would hear and feel more upset. 10 days later, my father woke up. I was overjoyed and hugged him. "Dad, do you recognize me?" I asked. He nodded, but didn't speak. I realized that half of his body was paralyzed. I understood that now. My father only had a faint heartbeat, his mind sometimes clear, sometimes foggy. I had lost the comforting advice that I used to get from him. I remember, in the past, whenever I visited home, as soon as I entered the yard and greeted my parents, my father would rush out to welcome me and say, "Look, our little calf has come home." That was the warm feeling of happiness that filled my heart, warming me after the cold I had endured. This passage highlights the emotional struggles of the protagonist as they face the ongoing health challenges of their father, the growing bond between family members, and the loss of a father's guidance. In the outside world, I remember the stories my father told about his childhood. When he was just 2 years old, he had to follow his grandmother to work. He still remembers one morning when the flowers of the red silk cotton tree bloomed, filling the courtyard with their color. He followed his grandmother to the district market. She told him to wait for her. The first rays of sunshine after the long, relentless rain made him smile with joy. But then he waited in vain, and his grandmother didn't return. His stomach, already shriveled from hunger, ached. He cried out, "Mom." By noon, his cries grew hoarse. A woman came over, gave him a piece of rice cake, and carried him inside. He still cried out for his mother. From that day on, he lived as an adopted child and never heard from his biological parents again. Seven years later, his adoptive mother gave birth to a son. On the day he was born, the baby didn't cry. No matter what they tried, he wouldn't make a sound. According to the old customs of our village, everyone called on my father to come and beat him so that he would cry, hoping that the baby would cry as well. Indeed, when my father hit him, the baby let out his first cry. My father loved the baby dearly. Every day, my father swept the yard and washed clothes so that his adoptive mother could focus on taking care of the baby. My father's feelings of loneliness and sorrow rose when he saw the baby being pampered by his adoptive parents. Every time he went to the fields, he would look towards the setting sun and call out to his biological parents. During those years, the war raged on. The entire village was evacuated. My adoptive parents told my father to stay home and look after things. This passage provides insight into the early hardships and deep emotional struggles of the protagonist's father. It highlights his feelings of abandonment and his complex relationship with his adoptive family. The enemy came to the village, burning and destroying everything, and capturing cattle, pigs, and chickens. My father was still young and terrified. He hid himself in the water tank. When night fell and the enemy left the village, he dared to go out to the fields to catch small crabs and snails to eat. Reflecting on his life, he felt there was nothing left to regret. Sometimes, the thought of being indifferent would cross his mind, and he even considered jumping out of the water tank, running wildly through the village so that the French soldiers would shoot him. Over a month later, the enemy withdrew, and the village began to slowly return. Reuniting with his adoptive parents and his younger brother, my father was overjoyed. At 17, he volunteered to join the army, always carrying the hope that one day, he would find his real parents and his family. At 30, my father met a woman who made him feel a sense of family, rekindling his hope of reconnecting with his biological family. Now, my father is 72 years old, August 2006. This passage deeply reflects the emotional journey and the complex experiences of the narrator's father during the war, his feelings of loss, and his enduring hope of reconnecting with his family. The short story ends here. Please leave your comments to share your thoughts and help me improve every day. Don't forget to give me a like and subscribe to the channel to enjoy more short stories in the future. Goodbye.